Hello, co-journeyers, and welcome back to the Truth So Help Me Good, Season 2. My name is Barbara Landry, and I am so happy to be back with you and be your host so that we can explore some of the bigger questions about this journey we call life with inspiration from my upcoming memoir, The Truth So Help Me Good. Welcome to episode 20. It's hard to believe that summer is almost over. It seems like so much has happened in such a short time. I do have a confession to share with you. When I decided to make episode 19, the finale of season 1, it felt like it was time. But more importantly, it felt like it was necessary. It was time to take a break, to reset, to regroup. In the months leading up to summer, I began to feel restless, discontent, dissatisfied even. But I have a great life, a wonderful husband, a loving family, a good job. I questioned what was wrong with me, that I was unable to shake this feeling of being stuck. Although things in my life were good, the idea that this was how it was going to be for me indefinitely left me feeling a sense of panic. Wasn't there more to life than this? Fear took over, and I found myself pushing back on everything. I needed space. And more importantly, I needed change. It was time to shake things up, even if it meant risking everything that I had. Sounds like the definition of insanity, doesn't it? Why would I want to rock the boat? Because the feelings were real, and I knew enough from past experience that if I did not voice them, I would implode. This concept of need for change or the inevitability of change is deep within our human history, perhaps one of the most fundamental aspects of our human experience. We see it in nature with the seasons. We see it in our own growth and transformation, and the cycle of life itself, from birth to death. It's part of life, and yet so many of us are resistant to it, feeling threatened by the sense of uncertainty that comes with change. Heaven knows there is good cause to feel that way in today's world, now more than ever. But if we explore the nature of change and the opportunities that it provides, perhaps we can open ourselves to it and actually welcome it. Years ago, when studying to be an interfaith minister, I read the book Barefoot on Holy Ground by Gloria Karpinski. One of the concepts in her book that resonates with me to this day is the idea that the only way we can get from where we are now to someplace different is to move through chaos. The chaos that comes from the dismantling of the status quo and the lack of order is necessary in order to create something new. I've always loved the Steely Dan lyrics, "Every minor world that breaks apart falls together again." Because it is about renewal. It is about hope. It is about trusting that things will fall back into place, but not without disruption. Tim and I were recently in Detroit, a city I had not been to for decades. In my mind's eye, I pictured it as a ghost town full of abandoned, burnt-out buildings with a history of civil unrest and violence, riots, destruction. But instead, what we found was a revitalized city with art and music, theater, college campuses, sports complexes, and a beautiful waterfront facing Windsor, Ontario. The city felt vibrant and alive and reminded me of the phoenix rising from the ashes, the mythical bird that is reborn from the aftermath of death and destruction. Perhaps Detroit has become what it is today because of its past, not in spite of it. I certainly can relate to the concept of rising up from the ashes. In my last year of high school, when I was finally free from my abuse, I was still stuck in the rubble of the damage it had caused, smoldering in the ashes. Step by step, I began to rebuild my life, finally free to follow my dreams. Over the years, the cycle of destruction and rebuilding would repeat itself, and as a result, I learned that I could trust the fact that changing my course, changing my goals, listening to my inner voice, and following my truth would lead me to a better place. In my memoir, in a chapter entitled The Long and Winding Road, I write about an experience I had while working as a waitress in a small cafe as my first job after high school, where I worked for two brothers, Hans and Felix. And I quote, "Part of my job included helping to clean up for the day after we stopped serving lunch. This included clearing and wiping down the tables and chairs in various areas in the kitchen. Among the kitchen cleanup items was a large stainless steel urn, which was used for cream for coffee. This was not something that was part of my usual routine, but one afternoon Susan asked me if I would clean it. I picked the urn up and brought it over to the sink and began to dismantle it so I could wash it. I drained out the leftover cream and gave it a rinse. Then I gave it a squirt of dish soap and started to swish it around. All of a sudden, I could see Felix coming toward me in my peripheral vision. 'What are you doing, you stupid bitch?' he said. 'You don't put soap in the creamer.' I froze in my tracks as his words cut through me like 1,000 daggers. I felt my rage begin to boil over, and without giving it a second thought, I grabbed my jacket from the coat rack and headed for the door. There was no way in hell that I was going to put up with that after all I had been through. I was out of there. I went up the steps and out the door to the sidewalk, where the brilliant blue fall sky and sun greeted me and cheered me on. I was trembling as my mind raced, taking in the chemical cocktail of adrenaline. I was in full fight or flight, in a trauma response, except at the time, I didn't know it. I thought this is how life is. It was consistent with so many experiences that I had had over the course of my short existence. I made my way onto the main street and headed to a payphone in a small park at the main intersection of downtown Wellesley. I was in a panic and wanted to call my mother. "I just walked out of a job," I told her through sobs and recovery breaths. "Felix called me a stupid bitch. What am I going to do now?" I wailed. "Calm down, honey," my mother said as I continued my blubbering. "It's okay. You did the right thing," she said. My hand continued to shake as I held the phone, but my mother's voice and reassurance helped calm me down. Looking over my shoulder, I noticed two very elderly women sitting on a bench right behind me. They were like two angels with their smooth, pale skin and silver gray hair, beautifully coiffed, beautifully dressed, and beautifully poised on their shared perch. With the backdrop of the blue fall sky and surrounding trees, they stood out dressed in their woolen coats and scarves, one predominantly pink and the other predominantly blue. Hanging up the phone, I started to move closer to them. "We heard you on the phone," said the pink one. "Yes, I just quit my job after my boss swore at me," I told them. "Oh, it will be all right, dear," said the blue one. "But I need a job," I said as my angst and fear dug their nails into my skin. "Why don't you go over to the Wellesley Inn? They are always looking for waitresses," said the pink one as she pointed across the street. "Yes, we have luncheon there several times a week," said the blue one. I lifted my gaze to see the grandeur of the Wellesley Inn right in front of me. It was a beautiful historic building with New England charm and classic Wellesley style. I looked back over to my pink and blue angels. They were both smiling with such ease and grace that my unsettled state began to calm and my angst evaporated into the crispness of the day. As I continued to pull myself together, I thanked them both and felt a new sense of resolve as I said goodbye and made my way over to the Wellesley Inn. End quote. I have learned not to fear change. I have learned that just because we feel uncomfortable doesn't mean that something is wrong. I have learned that change is a process that includes discomfort, fear, apprehension, and doubt. And I have learned that I can trust it, even if it scares the hell out of me. And so it is with this experience and knowledge that I face the future, my own as an individual, as well as our future together. Standing in my truth that the chaos that surrounds us also represents an opportunity for change. That as scary as it may appear, the chaos is the necessary and natural result of moving from where we are now to a different place. And with confidence and clarity, we can go there together. I would like to end this episode with a poem entitled A Phoenix Rising by John Mark Green. Every dream they tried to steal and every hope they couldn't kill is still alive inside your heart. Light your life from hidden sparks. It's all still there. It was not lost. Burn the lies that you have bought. Rise from the ashes, life renewed. Show the world your deepest truth. Find fresh freedom every day. Let inner purpose guide your way. You are strong. You do not lack. Give your all and don't hold back. Thank you, co-journeyers, for listening. I look forward to being with you again soon. Take care and be well.